Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studios in Atlanta, Georgia, it's time for High Velocity Radio.
Lee Cantor here, another episode of High Velocity Radio, and this is going to be a good one. Today on the show, we have Kristel Bauer, and she is with Live Greatly. She is the author of a new book, Work-Life Tango, Finding Happiness, Harmony, and Peak Performance Wherever You Work. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. Super excited to be here with you, Lee.
Well, I am excited to learn what you're up to. Tell us a little bit about Live Greatly. How you serving folks?
So Live Greatly is my mission, my purpose to try and help people wake up, get off autopilot, and start being intentional with how they're living their lives, really trying to help people live on purpose, live with intention, and really the goal of living greatly, right? So I used to be in healthcare, and I transitioned over to the speaking and media business back in 2020, and I absolutely love it. So definitely a huge part of my personal mission.
Well, tell us a little bit about your backstory, how you made the transition from working, I guess, for other people and now kind of building this media empire that you started.
Sure. So I was trained in healthcare, as I said, working as a physician assistant. So I got my master's, worked in different areas of medicine. And the last position that I had was actually in an integrative psychiatry practice. So I was working with individuals who were going through different mental health struggles, going through burnout, stress-related conditions. And along the same time, I furthered my education. I became an integrative medicine fellow. So what that is, it's a program a lot of physicians do to get certified in integrative medicine. And I did that because I really wanted to broaden my horizons about what does it really take for people to live happy, healthy, successful lives. And I wanted to look at that from all angles. So from my personal experiences, my training, the experiences I had working with these individuals, I wanted to take it to a wider scale. I wanted to start to share it with larger groups. And that's really what got me inspired to start Live Greatly. And then now at this point, writing my first book, Work-Life Tango.
Now, what was the reason to get into the corporate wellness side of this rather than just go to individuals individually?
So individuals individually, that's really what I had been doing, right? In healthcare, I was working one-on-one with people in the office, and I wanted to be able to reach a wider audience. I really wanted to try and help people help themselves, right? Inspire people to make the positive changes that they needed in their lives. And I had seen a lot of things throughout practice as far as what's not working so well for a lot of people and what is working. So I really was excited and inspired to share that and to share it on this broader stage to reach more people.
But when you go into the world of corporate wellness, the business has maybe different outcomes they desire than maybe the individual has individually. How do you kind of marry that?
I am a firm believer that it all starts with you. So whatever it is you're looking to achieve, if you have your goals for your career, your professional goals, your personal goals, whatever it is, if you're looking to take your career to the next level, if you're looking to improve your relationships in your personal life, whatever it may be, I think we all really need to take a close look in the mirror, a loving, compassionate look in the mirror. But we have to take the blinders off and we have to really put in the work with ourselves then to be able to show up how we want to show up in the world and how we want to show up at work, how we want to show up in our personal lives. So I think a big thing that I like to talk about is how we are showing up and our perspective around these things. I talk a lot about having a growth mindset. So I think when you work on yourself, then you're able to show up at work and perform your best. Then you're able to handle the ups and the downs and the in-betweens and be able to feel really good about your responses because you're less reactive, you're more intentional. So it really is all about this kind of, holistic approach to how you're living your life.
And then when you're talking to, if you're, do you go to corporations and say, hey, let me speak to your corporation or let me do some sort of workshops or plans to help you get the most out of your employees? Is that part of your portfolio or is it, well, let's start there.
Yeah, I do a lot of speaking. So I'm hired, I'm represented by a handful of speaking bureaus, but I am a managed speaker with Executive Speakers Bureau. So I do a lot of keynote speaking. I'm brought into different organizations, companies. It could be, it could be a nonprofit, whatever it is where they're looking to feel inspired. Perhaps they're looking to motivate their employees around change, or they're looking to boost happiness and morale in the office. So there's a lot of different angles where I can come in, but typically I'll do some sort of a keynote talk, and that's virtual or in person. And then, at times there could be more involved with that, but it really is the organization wanting to educate and inspire their team to be able to show up how they really want to show up, to feel excited about what they're doing. I have a keynote that I give quite often called Find Your Imperfect Happy. I love that phrase because, perfection is not our reality in our work and in our lives. There are ups and downs and stressors, and happiness doesn't have to be perfect either. So I'm really passionate about that topic of leaning into optimism, finding your imperfect happy, and working towards really where you really aspire to be.
Now, what are the kind of some of the symptoms or the challenges these companies are having where you are the right fit to help inspire their troops?
So, this could come across in a lot of different angles. I'm thinking just recently, I gave a keynote last week for an organization that was going to be undergoing change. So there's that level of unknown, right? You're not sure what's necessarily going to happen. There's a little bit of unease that people can be feeling when it comes to change. That's just human nature. So I pull from my training, my experience to help people get a higher perspective around this and to learn how to build resilience, at the same time be able to navigate some of those tough emotions. And there's a lot of things I go into here, but one thing I love to talk about is this growth mindset, where setbacks and challenges, they're bound to happen, but the key thing is, what are we going to do with them? Like, how can we focus on the solution instead of getting stuck in the problem? So that's just one example. Then there's other organizations where they're having their yearly meeting. They're looking to feel inspired and excited about whatever it is they're looking to achieve. They're looking for a boost, right? How can they approach work in a more upbeat, optimistic way? And that's really where I like to come in and get people excited that, wherever you are, little small changes can lead to a big impact.
Now, do you help around maybe the way the different generations approach work and their kind of relationships with their job and career?
So the book Work-Life Tango, it's getting out of this old model of work-life balance that I think a lot of us still think of, but in reality, the old school 9-to-5 job, it's a thing of the past. So we are accessible at all hours with technology. There's hybrid work, there's remote work. So we have to be, and I'm using this word again, really intentional with the usage of our time. And that's something that there's different viewpoints on that, where you should spend your time, and especially in the workplace. I am a big fan of a work-life harmony approach, where it's really about trying to tune in with yourself, build self-awareness, and then live your life in alignment with the things that are really important to you. And this is getting away again from that old model of work-life balance, where work is from 9 to 5, and then all the other stuff is before and after that. We have to take a new approach to how we are doing work, how we're showing up in our lives, because again, they're all bleeding in together. There's blurred boundaries. It's not as just cut and dry as it used to be.
So how do you help the individual kind of create that type of harmony? Because I would imagine, and I think some of this is generational, is that younger people, when I'm not there, and I'm not thinking about it. I'm not going to answer the phone. I'm not going to play. This is my time. And then maybe previous generations were like, look, things have to get done. I'm a make it happen kind of person. So whatever it takes, it takes. How do you help somebody kind of manage the expectations of this new kind of work environment that everybody is thrust into?
Yeah, I think we need to focus a lot on the outcome. So, as far as what is the end goal, and then how people are going about getting that end goal done, as long as it's high quality, there should be a little bit more flexibility in our current lifestyle to allow that. So what I mean by that is, if it's possible, some people might want to do a huge chunk of work really early in the morning. That's when they feel super productive. That's when they can get a lot done. And then maybe they want to take a little time midday to take a little time for themselves to, go work out or to grab lunch with a friend or whatever it is. And then they get another big chunk of work done in the afternoon, where someone else might have a little bit of a different schedule for how they like to work. So this world of hybrid work, remote work, it allows people to have that flexibility. And that autonomy is really important to people. But at the same time, you have to get the end result. So you have to show up, you have to perform, you have to bring it. And if that's not happening, then, that autonomy and that flexibility, it might go away. So I think that's a really important thing. You have to take ownership over that, regardless of what your work situation is.
So are you, how do you feel about this coming generation? Are you optimistic, pessimistic, you're neutral about how kind of the younger folks are handling this type of transition?
I am all about leaning into optimism. I think one thing I talk a lot about in the book Work Life Tango is self-awareness. And that's an area where we all can benefit from improving our self-awareness in a compassionate, courageous way. So the first chapter of the book is called When You Think You're Doing the Tango, but You're Really Doing the Chicken Dance. And I'm sure we can relate to this in one way or another. I'm thinking, for example, like, you've ever been dancing at a wedding and you might think, okay, I've got the moves down. You feel like I'm looking great. And then you've seen a video of yourself from the videographer and you're like, oh my gosh, what I was envisioning in my mind, it doesn't quite match up with what I'm seeing on the screen here. So we all have those blinders on in certain areas. So I think for every individual, it's our responsibility to get to know ourselves, to have a sense of curiosity, and to get feedback, to talk to the people that we trust, to be curious and open to feedback so we can grow and so that we can learn. And I think if people do that, we're going to be in a really good place to grow together.
Now, do you have any advice for leaders when it comes to managing the new workforce that we're in? This, like you mentioned earlier, there's remote, there's in the office, there's hybrid, there's all kinds of ways that people are coming and going that weren't the case, a generation ago. Any advice for that leader in order to manage kind of this more chaotic time?
Yes, I have a whole chapter in the book about this. You have to get to know your employees and you have to make an effort. It really does take effort and intention to build connection. So having conversations where you open the floor for discussion. What do your employees value? What's important to them? What are their pain points? How can you help? So going into these, informal conversations with that sense of curiosity, not having your mind made up before you even get into the meeting. And when you do that, you have a sense of authenticity, and it's very noticeable. People can tell when you're genuinely interested in them. What's important to them? How do they do their best work? How can you help? So I think we have to, yes, you need to have formal meetings. We need to have check-ins about all these work-related things, super important. But you also need to make an effort to just have a conversation to get to know your employees. Because when you do that, you're building trust, you're opening the doors for communication, you're opening the doors for feedback. And that's really at the core of success in the corporate world and in our personal life as well. Communication is so important.
And building that sense of community.
100%.
Now, is there a story you can share? Maybe a company came to you for help and you were able to speak there, you were able to make an impact, and how you were able to get them to a new level?
So one thing that's coming to mind is more of just opening these doors of communication, right? For people feel like you care, like it's safe to talk about areas where there's room for improvement, or perhaps there needs to be support in different areas. So I'd given a keynote to an organization, and we typically do a Q&A at the end, which opens the floor for people to have discussions or ask questions about things. And an individual was asking for help for strategies to navigate their mornings. And they had a lot going on within their family life that they felt like they couldn't get a handle on their day, because by the time they had to clock in for work, they were just finishing navigating all of the other family stuff. And they started their day feeling overwhelmed, like feeling frazzled. And so I gave some suggestions, but what was really cool is this person's boss was there. And they said to this individual, I had no idea you were having these struggles. I had no idea that this was an issue for you. Thank you so much for sharing that. Let's set up a meeting, because I want to talk about some options for you. We do have the flexibility where you could start at a later hour. Maybe we can adjust your hours a little bit. And that was really cool, because again, if you are able to open the door of communication, solutions can arise. But if we don't bring up these things, how in the world are they going to, get corrected? How are we going to move forward? So I think it's having the courage and confidence to articulate what you need in a respectful way.
Now, in your career, you've gone from working with individuals to now corporate work, and now writing a book. Are any of those challenges or transitions more difficult than the other? What was that like to make those kind of, each one of those transitions for a lot of people would have been life's work, and you've done multiple things throughout your career. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So throughout all of these different transitions, I've really learned that you need to be your own biggest advocate out there. You need to believe in yourself. So whatever it is you're doing, whatever your goals are, they have to mean something to you. They have to be important to you, because if you're trying to go after a goal that just, it's not something that really resonates with you, that you don't feel super passionate about, when those bumps in the road come up, which they will, you might not have that inner motivation to push through it, right? So for me, I really felt connected to what I was doing. So that gave me the confidence and the courage to keep going. And even when, you hear a no, even when something doesn't go the way that you want, what I was doing is then saying to myself, okay, how can I approach this in a new way? So it's constantly like focusing on that growth mindset and not feeling stuck, like, oh my gosh, that didn't work, I'm going to give up. All right, well, that's feedback. Now what? Now what do I want to do next? So it's keeping things exciting. It's encouraging yourself along the way. I talk a lot about our inner voice and our relationship with ourself. So how can you develop a relationship with yourself where you are your own biggest advocate? Because we really need to do that in life. We need to be our coach in life. And I share a lot of different things about how to do that in the book.
Did you have a coach in real life, or was this something that you just learned on your own, maybe through books or, podcasts or videos? Or did you have somebody that helped you kind of get these key foundational learnings that helped you get to new levels?
I did a lot of personal development, professional development throughout my life, right? And I had that official training in healthcare as a PA, and then I got my fellowship in integrative medicine, working in integrative psychiatry. So I've seen a lot, I've learned a lot, and I really wanted to try and see what are the key things for people to be happy and successful, right? So I've made this a key part of what I look into, what I'm interested in, the research that I do. So I don't have a coach that's helping me. I'm my coach on this journey but I'm looking for resources and outlets all the time, as far as looking to feel inspired by different things. I have a great network, community, family, friends that support me, wonderful people and colleagues that in the past who are supportive of my work. So I definitely have people in my life that have helped me along the way, 100%. But I think, as I said, in this dance of work and life, we really do need to be our own biggest advocates. And while getting support from others, super important, we also need to make sure we're showing up for ourselves.
So if somebody wants to learn more about your speaking, your book, or your podcast, or anything else you're up to, is there a website? What's the best way to connect?
Yes, so the book is available Barnes & Noble, Amazon, Work Life Tango, Finding Happiness, Harmony, Peak Performance Wherever You Work. My website is www.livegreatly.co, so people can check out some of my speaking clips, learn about my keynote topics, connect with me there. I'm on LinkedIn and Instagram. I post there quite a bit. And then my podcast is called Live Greatly. So they can find me in all those places.
Well, Kristel, thank you so much for sharing your story. You're doing such important work, and we appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Lee. I really appreciate it.
All right, this is Lee Cantor. We'll see you all next time on High Velocity Radio.